We had a press conference the other day in the battle of the judges, and we came out pro Justice Janice Rogers Brown. Same day we have a conference, there is this Congressional Black Caucus automatically says we're going to have a preemptive press conference, and they wheel out all these people. I didn't know that a handful of black preachers, 130 black preachers or more, were so scary to the people that are in charge. But we are, because if black people get off of this, if we want to use the word plantation of the mind that the unaccountable democratic machine has us on, then we become a threat to them. So it's important. Oh, don't let them talk.
I was recently talking with a group of major African-American bishops. And with those bishops, I pulled out the original documents because we have literally tens of thousands of original documents out of black history, out of all this history. And I'm showing all these legislators, all the first black U.S. senators that were Republican, all the state leaders that were Republican, black leaders. And we're going through and I'm showing the records out of Congress where the Democrats say, yes, we started the Klan. That was so going through all of this, and these black bishops asked me, how come we don't hear this in our history books?
Well, what is being taught in schools is revisionist history. I object to Black History Month. I think it ought to be history. Where blacks made a contribution, you just show their face. Prior to the civil rights movement in the 50s, the Brown decision, there was a rich tradition of black self-help. The black colleges used to publish a journal of black business success. But in order to get the civil rights laws to apply to blacks, we had to present ourselves as victims of racism. So in order to do that, we had to cease publishing the accounts of our success.
Of the 23 African Americans elected to the federal Congress, 13 had been slaves. Now, here's what really is fascinating with that. You're talking 1865, you're in slavery. You're talking 1875 years later, you're now a member of Congress. The right to vote for African Americans today has nothing at all to do with the 1965 Voting Rights Act, contrary to most people's opinion. The right to vote was given as one of the 3 civil rights amendments post-Civil War. You have the 13th Amendment to abolish slavery. In that vote in Congress in 1865, January and February 1865, the Senate first and the House, 100% of Republicans voted in slavery, 118 out of 118. 82 Northern Democrats in Congress, only 19 voted in slavery. Only 23% of Northern Democrats wanted in slavery. We roll on through, and in the South, slavery has been ended. So the 14th Amendment was passed in Congress to give civil rights to all those emancipated slaves, all the freedmen. That vote in Congress, not a single Democrat in the House or the Senate voted for the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. They passed the 15th Amendment in 1870 that says every African American can vote. So voting rights for African Americans come from the 15th Amendment passed in 1870, which, by the way, not a single Democrat in the House or the Senate voted for the 15th Amendment. Now, what happens is we roll forward to the next few years, and between 1870 and 1875, Congress passed a bunch of civil rights laws. In 1876, Democrats took control of the House of Representatives. So no more civil rights laws passed until 1964. In 1892, Democrats got control of the House and the Senate and the presidency and promptly repealed all the civil rights laws, voting rights laws, etc. That's where the South started literacy tests, poll taxes, Democrat legislatures passing all these things to keep blacks from voting, despite the fact that the 15th Amendment says they can vote.
And the Democrats in power in the South enacted all the Jim Crow laws and simply disenfranchised the blacks. And tremendous gains had been made in the years after the Civil War. Those were all lost, they were all reversed, and basically what you had was African Americans in the South going back into a virtual condition of slavery.
1875, the U.S. Congress absolutely abolished segregation. They did it. There was no segregation allowed in America in 1875. The U.S. Supreme Court struck down that law in 1882. Now, what the court did in Brown versus Board of Education, which is a very laudable decision, All they did was overturn themselves from 70 years earlier. It was the court that kept segregation alive. An additional 70 years past what the people did with that.
Just 100 years after Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation that freed the slaves, 200,000 people converge on the nation's capital to rally for civil rights. They come by train, they come by bus and by air. They come from the north, the south, the east and west. They come united in one cause, to urge Congress to pass a civil rights bill to end forever the blight of racial inequity. And who organized the rally walk with springing steps toward the speaker's stand. And there's a great swell of cheers to welcome Martin Luther King to the speaker's podium, a man who stands as a symbol of all they are fighting for.
During the lifetime of my uncle, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., my dad was his brother, Reverend A.D. King. They were civil rights activists, leaders. My dad was a primary strategist. So I had an opportunity to live during the days where we had white and colored water fountains, white and colored restrooms. We couldn't stay in the hotels. We couldn't eat in the restaurants.
They felt that their job was to do the following: get in front of the cameras and let the dogs get turned on them. Let the water hose get turned on them. They knew they had to do it. Let them be seen going off to jail. And they believed that the conscience of America would be pricked by the Holy Spirit if they were vulnerable enough to let these atrocities be seen publicly.
We weren't protesting to make white folks like us. We weren't protesting to be accepted by white people. I don't want to be a credit to my race. I don't care if I'm a credit to my race or not. I wanted the right to compete against you. So the lunch counter sitting in Greensboro wasn't to get a sandwich. It wasn't to try to make sure that you serve me properly. It was the right for me to open up a restaurant right next door.
We create our present from the influences of our past. And our past has been created, and it can never, nor will it ever, be erased.
So the Republican Party was birthed out of this. And from the get-go in the Republican Party, there was a clear statement that this party was against slavery. This thing was wrong, it was evil and wrong, and must be abolished.
They came out with their first platform shortly thereafter, tiny little platform. It's only got 9 planks in the platform. 6 of the 9 planks dealt with civil rights. We want slavery ended, we want segregation ended, we want full civil rights. It was a civil rights party birthed out of a number of atrocious pro-slavery decisions.